Are Nasty Skulkers any good in patch 6.0.3? Now, fresh to this patch, Nasty Skulkers are unlocked for anyone with access to Greenskins at all, not just those who bought the Grom the Paunch DLC back in the day or on a deep sale. They are as nasty as the name implies and fill a niche that's sorely needed in the roster, so let's go over this interesting unit together. Recruited for 500 gold and 125 upkeep, which is no casual cost, on Ultra this gets you 160 entities with 8,320 health between them. Yes, this is a 160 entity unit. Armor is 15, leadership is a miserable and pathetic 40 default. Speed 37 and charge speed 42 make them unusually nimble. Note my lack of mention of any kind of shield. They'd only slow you down when running away. Old Spartan reference. Melee attack begins at 26, which is far from ideal, with an attack interval of 4.6, which is equally far from ideal, with no splash damage whatsoever. Melee defense begins at a mere 16, and I'm sure by now you're wondering what the point is. Weapon strength 24 is split between base 6 and 18 armor-piercing damage. So, yes, this is a low-tier, high-entity, armor-piercing gobbo infantry unit. That's a big part of the point. Charge bonus is 20, which is unusually high for infantry, and mass is 90, nothing special there. This unit has vanguard deployment and stalk. These are two major things which need mention before we get into any other stuff. Their active ability, Smoke Bomb, has a 90-second cooldown, 35-meter radius, and within that, for 21 seconds, enemies are slowed to the tune of minus 60% speed and minus 60% charge speed, making Bretonnians sad. And note, through this video you see me trying to use the Smoke Bomb on units, and a lot of the unit has to be within that 35-meter radius or it's not going to work properly. The passive is a very notable thing, so let's go over it. Opportunistic Murderer is activated when the unit is attacking a rear or a flank. The proc is 15 seconds duration, granting plus 10 melee attack and plus 40% armor-piercing damage during that time. Now, entities tend to turn around and face a unit attacking from the rear as individual entities. So how sensitive this passive is to such behavior, I am not going to be the judge. It's just to say, this unit has stalk and is meant to attack from the rear, so do that, and things will improve. Note, there is absolutely no reason for this not to combine with the charge bonus for the first couple of attacks, so there you go. Note that there is no expendable trait on this unit. Orcs will be annoyed about their failure, not just gobbos. In the Redline skills, the gobbos governs all goblin infantry, so at 3 pips that's plus 6 melee attack and plus 6 melee defense. At rank 7, Sneaky Stabbers offers plus 5 leadership, plus 12% weapon strength, and 10% physical resistance, all greatly welcome. In the tech tree, Tough Fodder returns to offer plus 10 armor and plus 3 melee defense, and More Grub gives leadership plus 5, not wasted here, and upkeep minus 5% for good measure. The only scrap upgrade that does not require a tech is Smoke Bomb Bags, offering a minus 50% cooldown to smoke bombs. You might think this is niche, and then you might be fighting Bretonnia or an Empire force with 5 Knights of the Black Rose. Your call. Scavenge and Gits offers both of the other upgrades under one tech unlock. Rusty Stabbers returns to offer bonus versus infantry plus 6, and to put it mildly, if you're fighting dwarfs or any sort of thorny armored infantry, like Chaos Warriors for instance, they're certainly spiky enough. You want this. Now, this other one, Water Flasks, it's very expensive as you can see, 60 scrap default, but it offers the unit permanent, perfect vigor. And that's very interesting, isn't it? That means 0 degradation of combat performance no matter how long the unit has been in combat or running for its life or charging at the enemy. This is even better late in the fight. So how do we use Nasty Skulkers? Well, to put it rather bluntly, we use them as Sneaky Stabbers. They're not meant to tank from the front. That's the absolute last thing you should do. Ideally, you do want them operating as counters to armored dwarfs, and I'm being specific because Slayers are a tremendous mismatch in a frontal fight, and you gain little from it. Setting aside the infantry part, I want to point straight at the other role you may have gotten little hints about. That being as a counter-striker against early-game, low-tier shock cavalry. This isn't limited to heavily armored cavalry like Empire Knights. Even rival Wolf Riders, or mounted yeomen or peasant horsemen will do. Slowing enemy cavalry and descending on them to stab in the front or back, as the case may be, will do a lot to mess them up. Empire Knights are a great example largely because their melee defense isn't anywhere near that of the Knights of the Black Rose, and they are heavily reliant on that armor to slow down the damage they take to keep them relevant late in a fight. Showing that armor up in the infantry mosh pit quickly reduces them to irrelevance. Of course, for this to work at its best, you need to avoid face tanking the Knights, but you do your best with that. Nasty Skulkers as a high entity unit with low defense and armor are extremely fragile against a wide array of sources, but their low leadership, barring special faction bonuses, will actually work in favor of their survival because if they run fast enough, far enough, they'll return to stalk status. This means that in a lot of battles, your Skulkers will be at half strength or less, but that's still 80 gobos, or less, returning to the fight in an ambush from behind with all their bonuses running. This tactic has sealed the deal for more than a few Greenskin players over the years. Skulkers are emphatically not cost efficient compared to your other Goblin units, but neither are they so crazy expensive. You can't try to use them and then merge survivors if it doesn't work out ideally, but in an era of tougher walls and gates, you may want them to be able to sneak into a settlement and seize victory points the sneaky way too. It can be done. Bottom line, it's a lot like crit ghouls, but with a lot more armor piercing and no poison. Be sneaky, be stabby, and it's hard to go wrong. Just remember that the stealth comes at the cost of not being fast, like a wolf rider. On the other hand, any artillery crews or missile troops the unit actually gets in range of, they ought to be toast, especially if any try to skirmish mode you and turn their backs. They can still run pretty far, but turning their backs on you actually just helps you out in a lot of cases. Armor-piercing damage may be more efficient against armor, but plus 40% of it is just pure damage output against low armor troops, so it's no waste. So anything that turns to run is food. Take care, and have fun backstabbing like an AD&D thief. The nasty part is just a good racial bonus at work.